Welcome to part 2 of a modding series where we're just sort of generally futzing around with the game REPO. If you have not watched part 1 and have not written the foundational script that we'll be expanding upon today, you'll want to pause this video, go watch part 1, and come back when you have finished writing that script. So to recap, assuming you have followed along with part 1, you should have a mod that will log item data to a console when REPO generates a level. It will also log player keystrokes. So this isn't super exciting, but what it does prove is that BepInEx is properly attaching itself to the level that's generated and accurately extracting information from it and printing it to the console. In thinking about how best to expand upon this mod to start doing some stuff that is a little more interesting, I thought enemy behavior was an interesting place to go, but then I thought testing that mod would be very tedious if every time we made a change or needed to troubleshoot, we had to go find the enemy in question in-game. So I thought a better initial expansion would be to give us the ability to manually spawn in an enemy. That way, we will be able to more efficiently test any mods you might want to do down the line that involve changing enemy behavior or even just applying new meshes and textures to the enemy. So that's what we'll do today in part 2. Specifically, we're going to give ourselves the ability to spawn in the enemy Headman with a keystroke. Now, we'll need to do some enhancements to our existing script. So let's start with the StarterModHandler. So in lesson 1, the script that we wrote, its job is to log any key that you press and watch the game's level generator and announce when the level is fully generated. So there's not any actual gameplay action tied to that yet. In this new version that will be in the README file, we're going to maintain that same structure, but we're going to add a hotkey. So pressing the P key, P as in Paul, will now make a call that spawns the enemy near the player. So this is the first kind of introduction of a key input that's actually going to do something in the game world, as opposed to just kind of logging information. I'll highlight the new block on the screen and in the README file so that you can clearly see what changed, but the full updated script will be in the README. It'll be paste ready. You can just drop the whole thing in and replace your initial version. So you're going to see a block that starts with this line, trigger summon. This is commented out, so it's just there for our own reference. This line, input.getDown key, runs once on the frame that you press P. So this will keep the action from repeating. If you were to hold the key longer than one frame, you're just going to get one enemy spawn. This line just prints a message to the console, signifying it caught the keystroke. And this line is what's going to call in the mod's helper to spawn the enemy head prefab. Enemy head refers to the Headman enemy. So essentially in lesson 1, this script just listened and watched the level. Now this enhanced version will allow that P key input to spawn in the enemy. Our StarterPlugin class also requires an enhancement. This includes a harmony prefix on the enemy.teleport to point line. This essentially seeks to block our summoned enemies from teleporting. The valuable logger patch class can remain as is, no enhancements needed there. I went ahead and posted each class in its own text document. So go ahead and locate the StarterModHandler text document and just copy paste over the previous version of that class. You'll notice an error here. That's because we have not added the summon enemy helper class that it references, but we will do that. The next class that requires enhancement is our StarterPlugin. So do the same basic thing. Just go ahead and paste the new script over your previous version. Once again, we do have some errors that should clear up as we add additional classes and references. I'm going to highlight some of the key blocks, the new lines within the README file. So if you do want to get a closer look at exactly what we're adding, that is available to you. Otherwise, you can just copy paste the new versions. Let's go ahead and add our references. We do have a couple new references. We are looking for Photon Unity Networking and UnityEngine.AI module. So to add those, you'll recall from lesson 1, we're going to right-click references, add reference, browse. We're looking within the managed folder within repo data. Yours probably lives in a similar file path to mine. So again, let's just get this out here so we can see both of them. We're looking for that Photon Unity Networking. There it is. You want Photon Unity Networking.dll. Click add and browse again. And UnityEngine.AI module. Add, click OK. Your references should now look like this. And you'll see that that error in our StarterPlugin class just went away because we added the appropriate reference. At this point, let's go ahead and add a couple new classes. Let's just get the sort of like shell class in place, and then we'll paste in the actual script. So right-click up here where we have Reaper Starter Mod. Click add class. You're looking for this class option, so by default it's going to be class 1.cs, but let's call this one summon enemy helper.cs. For now, just leave that sort of default script in there because we do have another class to add. And we're going to call this one mod utils. So you should have 5 total classes now, StarterModHandler and mod utils being our new classes, and your StarterPlugin and StarterModHandler should have our enhancements. The only thing we have not touched and don't need to is the valuable logger patch. Okay, so now that we've got our new classes in place, click into the mod utils, delete that default script, grab the mod utils script from the files I'll post with this, and just paste it in. I do want to highlight a few lines here so you understand conceptually what we're doing. This line looks within 3 meters of the player's position for a valid spot on the nav mesh, and we'll try to create a level point there. And in order to do that, it will use this line to grab an existing level point in the scene and clone it, so that way it can inherit the existing components and setup. We basically are trying to get it to behave the same way as a naturally spawned level point, and that will function as the spawn point that we try to put the enemy on. All right, we've got one last piece of script to paste in here. Go ahead and find the summon enemy helper script. Paste that over that shell class that we added. I'll just call it a few of the key functions from this class. It's going to interact with that mod utils class we've already added to find the enemy prefab asset, in this case the enemy head, so we can spawn it. We're going to tag it as summoned, and if you recall, our starter plugin is going to apply that harmony prefix to enemies whose name contains summoned, so this is where it's getting that tag, and this is going to ensure that it works in single player or multiplayer. It's essentially instructing the game exactly how it should summon the enemy depending on that context. So as long as you are the host, you should be able to spawn in the enemy at will with that P key input, even if your friends that you're playing with don't have the mod. So I might suggest not informing them of the mod and just spamming in a bunch of headmen and just seeing how that goes. All right, if you've updated the StarterModHandler and the starter plugin and added mod utils and summon enemy helper, you should be all set. So make sure you save your classes. You can tell it has an unsaved change if the class has a little asterisk next to the name up in this tab here. So go ahead and click into each of those tabs, click into the script and input Control S to resolve the asterisk. Then you can input Control-Shift-B to perform the build. You'll see down here, if the build is successful, it'll also give you the output file path for the .dll. This is my output path. So I will go ahead and navigate there. Mine is in bin and debug. You'll probably see yours right at the top, but if you don't, you can organize by date modified to put the most recent at the top, which ought to be your repo startermod.dll. I'm going to put this up side by side with our repo game folder. In the last video, you should have created the BepInEx folder within your repo game folder. So go ahead and click into that, click into plugins, and you can replace the previous DLL with our new one. I'd like to do a copy paste here rather than a drag and drop just to maintain the DLL within this debug folder as well. But we should be good to go ahead and launch the game and test this out. There's our console window back there. All right, let's just start a single player game. Now, one thing I will tell you is that not everywhere in the game is going to function as a valid spawn point. The truck, for instance, I have not yet cracked how to get an enemy to spawn in the truck. So you'll notice that if we try, I'm pushing these P inputs, we can see the prefab kind of flashing in and then out as it's teleporting away because the truck simply isn't valid. There's some other rooms that are going to be deemed invalid, but the enemy is spawning into the level. Okay, and if we walk out this door, we should find our Headman pretty quick. There he is. And you can see there's two more back there that were spawned in. So we are generating enemies into the level. We can bring in enemies on demand. And maybe in the README file, I'll also include the prefab names for other enemies. So if you wanted to apply this to enemies other than the Headman, you would just find anywhere in our current script that references enemy head and replace it with the appropriate prefab name. So look for that in the README file. If you like this kind of content, if you want to continue to expand upon this game, I know we've kind of fixated on repo, but my hope here is that you're kind of extracting more broadly applicable information about how to kind of write script in Visual Studio, compile the DLL, and use BepInEx to mod. So if you like this kind of content, if you find it helpful, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you do run into questions. If you'd like to see a part 3 for this, let me know what you're interested in pursuing. My instinct is to start messing with enemy behavior. I think there's a lot of fun applications to being able to kind of manipulate the enemies, especially in multiplayer. But if you have different ideas, let me know in the comments, and hopefully we'll see you in a part 3.